What's up, Land Golf Academy members and guests? So you want to hit your irons pure? Gabriela Ruffels does a pretty good job, and look at this picture right here. This picture says 1,000 words. It's all about establishing connection between your hands and your chest, specifically post-impact, but it's what she does during the swing that I've been trying to teach my students for quite some time, but I'll teach you today. And Gabriela's probably going to be the LPGA Rookie of the Year, so today we're going to look at her cause and effect and how you can do a little bit of what she does, and I guarantee you, your iron striking will jump through the roof. And we are this close to getting our 3,000th subscriber, so we're giving away free online golf lessons. Do me a favor, if you want to go in for the drawing, leave a comment down below that just says 3,000 or bust, and you'll be entered into our drawing where I'm going to give away 10 free online golf lessons. And it's easy as pie. You just download our software and we can start changing your swing immediately. But enough of that, let's go look at how you can benefit from watching her swing and maybe hit the ball a little bit better. Alright, Gabriela's on the screen. We're going to watch this swing over and over in slow motion and just talk about a few things that I see. And I used to try and swing like this some 20 years ago and I got it down. But the problem is it does take quite a lot of discipline to keep this type of swing in its longevity. You really need to be strong in the core. You really need to stretch and work out, specifically in the left lat. Now, if you'll notice that the hands and arms, they are set up differently than what you see nowadays. There's very little forward press, and this is one thing that I'm trying to get across to the amateurs, is you don't need forward press. You need to be in a position where the hands can stay in front of the chest, and you see limited motion with the hands crossing side to side. Now, if that doesn't make sense, we're going to try and break it down, and this somewhat resembles Iron Byron. That's a swing machine that gives this perfect swing all the time, except the problem with Iron Byron is there's no hip turn. There's no lower body involved. So I'm going to do a different video on that down the line about how Iron Byron is a great model to look at, but it's really impractical with humans because we have a lot more joints and a lot more stuff going on. But keep in mind that there are two forces that we're looking at, is centripetal and centrifugal forces, and how they differ and where they transfer over. And that is the key that I want you to watch as we break this swing down. So remember, we talked about centripetal force and centrifugal force. So I want you to kind of imagine that it's like a halfway point. So from the start of the swing to the back of the swing is more centripetal force involved, as the tension of the muscles and the grip and the club creates the inward force that keeps the club moving in its circular path. But the centrifugal force is as you were striking the golf ball, as you're making that move down, and it will start to give you a feeling of the club moving its way out and away from the golfer. And you'll notice this past impact that the club head moves further away, the arms extend more out, and this plays a key point in her swing. Now I want you to look at the left side and the right side. We've got some lines set up, and the one on the left side, we're going to look at her setup right away. The feet are nice and shoulder width, and we put that red line to show how she spins around that red line. It doesn't sway over it as much as some other golfers I see. And we're looking at that triangle that she's created on her shoulder tilt, and that extends down to the center of her hands. And you notice the center of her chest goes right through the hands and down to the golf ball. So there is no forward pressing. There's no premature forward pressing. She doesn't have to worry about holding on to any angles and manipulating her body positioning to hold on to those angles. The one on the right side, we see that green line going right through her spine, and that yellow line is 90 degrees from that spine angle. Why is this important? Because this is where the left shoulder should tilt down to, and all it is doing is it's tilting equal to that green line, so it should always be perpendicular. Most of us have some issues with that because, as you'll notice, as she takes that club back, in order to keep that left shoulder going down, she has to feel like her whole body's going down, and you see that head will lower, and when that head lowers, that allows her shoulder tilt to get right on that yellow line. Look how perfect that is. Now, if you go to the left side of the screen, we'll start to see that red brace line. You notice how there's nothing going over that red brace line, so she is basically turning and pivoting around that right hip as her left shoulder works its way down. It's going to feel like it's going down. Now, to ensure that the hands are going on the correct path, well, a lot of the times I see that left shoulder going down or feeling like it's going down, the hands will suck back into this area, and all of a sudden your hands will now have some compensatory motions on the way down. So a couple things have to happen is, as your left shoulder goes down, the hands need to feel like they're going up to stay on that lower plane line. But if you take a look at where this club is pointing at this position, it is pointing pretty close to the same line as her feet. So she is really keeping things very simple by having less things to go wrong, by making sure her body is in control of this golf swing, not so much her hands and arms. Now, if we redraw that same triangle here, this is about midway point. We're going to draw it again and take a look at what is the difference. We see the hands are still connected to the center of the chest. However, we see the hinge is starting to occur. Now, this hinge is what we're talking about with the forces. And this is that centripetal force that is being generated. It feels like things are being pulled into yourself. So that club head weighs something. As we go back, we can see she still turns. Those hands are still in front of the chest. Let's go to the very top of the swing and take a look at the difference here. So that's the top of both swings. Now, if you take a look, the one on the right side, she is sat right in the center of those two plane lines. Now, that's the upper plane line where the arm should meet and the lower plane line where the club head should work its way up and down. Now, the one reason is because of her shoulder tilt, and the second reason is because she is limiting her hand and arm action. Many amateurs will start to get their hands or arms to keep on going to see if they can steal distance, and when they keep on going, that's when they work to that secondary plane line. Now, the thing that she does so beautifully, and I want you guys and girls to try and do at home, is to keep that connection between your hands and your chest. So let's redraw that same triangle and see if that's still the same connection, and we'll draw the yellow one to the center of her chest, so everything is still connected to the core. So the core is where the power is generated. The roll of the hands and arms, it's like a satellite. You've got to keep those hands and arms, the club head speed and the hand speed, the same as you turn through. So let's just clear some of these lines up. So the satellite that we're looking at is, let's draw a circle and imagine that that is the satellite that you want it to occur. Now, on the way down, we can see that that satellite shifts inward. Now, the reason it shifts inward is, look at the left hip. The left hip is going to bump towards the target in this manner, which will allow the upper body to tilt down, but it also moves the hands slightly forward. So now the satellite's getting closer. This is where the force starts to change. Now it becomes centrifugal as things work out. There is so much conservation of angular momentum right here because of everything she's done. She's kept everything together and she's bumped that towards the target, and now she's rotating. The cool thing about this is, look at the one on the right side. It is falling right down to that golf ball. She's going to clear her hips. She's going to rotate, but watch the hand speed. The hand speed will keep up with the chest. And as she comes down through, where's that triangle? One more frame. Now we take a look at the triangle. How did the triangle change? Let's redraw the lines one more time. We see the triangle tilted a little bit more because of that drive on the left hip. But where did the triangle stay? The triangle stayed as close to the center as she started. And we're going to draw where the line is to the golf ball. So this is where she gets her forward press. It happens naturally. Her triangle stays the same. It is where the wrist hinge unloads at the golf ball, but it can only unload consistently when you keep them closer to your chest. So I want you to think about that the next time you play golf. Now, as we come on through, we can see that release pattern. Look at the triangle. These are all going to be as close to each other as we can get. There's that next frame. Let's go one more frame. We can see. And in this position here, we can see how the triangle has stayed the same. And by that, I mean the speed of the hands versus the relation of the tilt has stayed the same. So as the right shoulder tilts down or the left shoulder tilts up, whatever you want to see, that yellow line moves in accordance to that tilt. Now that yellow line is staying steady because the hand speed is the exact same as the tilt. So what I'm trying to tell you is, where these red arrows are pointing, you can see that the gapping is about the same when it counts. And this is when that second force, centrifugal force, kicks in. And as we accelerate and pass through, we can see it's much easier to extend out because of that force has taken over. But the key is, how do we maintain ourselves? So if we continue this, and let's clear up all these lines, what we're going to look at is where the shoulders are on the left side versus the hands, and we can still see that they're still connected to each other. So that is the key to hitting the golf ball more solid and more consistent, is you have to figure out, how do I get my hand speed to be relative to my shoulder tilt? You can only do that by keeping them in front of your chest. So your area of your hand motion is, let's back it up to the top here. I want you to think about your shoulders as this line and this line. Your hands can only go back as far as your right shoulder. If they start going back to here or crossing back to the top there, you're going to be in trouble. And that's where the manipulation of the hands and the body has to manipulate. One of the things has to manipulate for you to hit the golf ball. The more you can keep things out in front of you, out in front of your chest, the simpler the golf swing becomes. The more you can keep it out in your front of your chest, the more your body has to turn and open and close, and then your hands can now be in front of your chest. That's the key. So I want you to video your swing from front and down the line, and I want you to look at this relationship, and hopefully this makes sense. Hopefully I didn't spit out a bunch of nonsense to you. If I did, let me know in the comments down below. But watch this swing over and over again. Go to the very start of this video where we showed her swing over and over again, and look at the relationship between the shoulder tilt and the hand speed. And you can only keep those two in relation to each other if they are connected. It's all about the connection. So don't forget that 3K sub giveaway. Remember the comment, 3,000 or bust, and I'll have a lesson with you. Hope that helps you, everybody. See you next time. Fairways and greens.